Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of WCM Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks here, as always, with Mr. Ben Quiggle from Woodall's Campground. You need a new title, Ben. I feel like I say the same thing over and over again. Like, can you be chief executive or editor-in-chief or like wizard of the news or something?
I can't be chief executive, but we can work on that.
Separate division, like there could be a CEO just of Woodall's. You do basically all the work there, right? So, all right, anyway. Yeah. And then Cara Braeutigam from the Canadian Camping and RV Council. And then we've got quite a number of guests here who are going to go around the room, kind of introduce them, or Ben can do that, whichever way it works out. But we're going to talk about OTAs, just the kind of the benefits of possibly using them at your campground, maybe some of the negatives too, why they're important, things of that nature, and then some of the people that can help you connect with those services. And so remember, we are also a podcast available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all those kinds of places. So you can listen to us there, or if you're watching us on Facebook, feel free to comment in the chat and we can interact with you, bring your comments up on camera. Love to involve you guys in that discussion. So Ben, everybody else, take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, I would go around and introduce everyone, but I'm going to kill their last names because I'm horrible with last names. I think Kristen's last name is probably the only one I could get. O'Hara. I'm not even going to try Eric's, and we don't even know Heath's. So maybe we'll just have them go around. We'll start with Terry.
Don't be hard on yourself, Ben.
We'll start with Terry, and you just give us your name and just a little bit about what you do. So
sure. Thanks for having us this morning. I'm Cara Braeutigam. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Spot Tonight, and we are a truly integrated and agnostic booking system that works with mutual partners through a direct API integration, serving the United States.
Okay. Yeah. Kristen?
Sure. My name is Kristen O'Hara. I'm the Director of Business Development for NewBook, a property management system company. And we have hundreds of campgrounds in the United States and thousands globally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you guys are NewBook's based out of Australia, right?
We are, yep. And we also have an office in Irvine, California.
Okay, yeah. So been quickly expanding. So Eric, just give us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Eric Cargelotto. I'm one of two people working on CampNav. We scan sold out parks for new availabilities and then send text messages when they come available.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's a fascinating site, so it's going to be really interesting to talk a little bit more about what you do there. And then Heath, since we don't have your last name, you have to, tell us your last name and then what you do. So.
Sure. My name is Heath Padgett. Can you guys still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Usually it's my first name that nobody can understand. So it's like anytime I have to tell somebody my first name, it's like the candy bar or Heath Ledger. So Heath Padgett. And I run campground booking. We have a team of about 10 people. So I'm the co-founder along with my CTO. So we're a reservation platform specifically designed for campgrounds. Kind of built it while we were traveling around the country. Most of our core team were full-time RVers. So kind of went around parks, asked what they wanted, and built out the platform. And we work with around 100 parks right now across the U.S., Mexico, and Canada.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So I get, and Heath, you're in, you have the most interesting background. You're in Moab, Utah, right?
Correct.
You're on a vacation.
What's wrong with my background?
We've seen it before.
Fine. I'm going to move next week then, just for you.
And Kristen's on vacation too. She's in a hotel ballroom. So I guess maybe I should have been on vacation. Cara, are you on vacation?
No.
No, you're not on vacation? Okay. Well, I guess I didn't get the memo. I'm going on vacation next week, but I guess I'm a week late. So, well, we wanted to invite everyone on just to talk a little bit about OTAs and kind of the lack of them in the reservation, in the campground space too, just a little bit as far as, what makes it so difficult to maybe create an OTA in the campground RV park sector. And I guess, Terry, we could just start with you. I guess just tell us a little bit about what Spot Tonight does and how you kind of work as an OTA, I guess. And you you integrate with NewBook, right?
That's correct. We sure do.
Yeah. To be clear, have we told everybody what an OTA is? Just for the people who might not know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
I thought, you want me to cover that, or y'all want to take it?
If you
online travel agent. Expedia, Travelocity, TripAdvisor, those kinds of places. Basically a third-party booking system that allows you to connect with more guests than would otherwise be at your own booking system. Short, sweet.
That's it. And I'm humbled to be surrounded by so many experts in the field. I consider myself probably a newbie here, but although I am on my fourth RV, so I'm coming really from a frustrated consumer side. And the history of Spot Tonight is just that. My son-in-law and I, who's my co-founder, Sam, we were sitting on the side of my RV, all dressed up, ready to go on a Friday night in South Louisiana. He says, let's go camping. And I said, when? He said, right now. I said, okay. Here's my phone. There's 4 pages of apps, directories, websites. I have all that. You find a spot. Good luck. And much to his amazement, in South Louisiana, we're a heavy camping state, and you cannot just pick up and roll out. So that began our journey. That was 18 months ago, into discovering and talking to campground owners about how it all worked. And soon I got savvy real quick on all of the background systems. My background, interestingly enough, is I'm a registered nurse. I've had almost a 40-year career in nursing, including 21 military and another 10 civilian, but a master's in public administration, information systems concentration. So I knew that there was some connection there. We reached out to some integration partners that we're connected with, such as New Book, and realized that they had APIs available. And so we started coding to that, and we launched now about 5 weeks ago. And we're integrated with New Book, finishing that up, as well as RMS and Checkfront are our partners. So we're constantly recruiting parks and onboarding parks.
Yeah. And how many parks do you guys have on the system right now?
So right now we have access to, roughly through our integration partners, about 1,500 parks there. We're in, just picked up another 6 on Friday and another group. So that's going to put us in upwards of 30 states and close to 60 some odd parks in the system right now. And what the way that our system, I failed to mention, is unlike playing Google RV parks next to me and someone finding a spot and loading all their filters in and then only to come up nothing. In our app, you load your preferences one time. And there may be 100 spots near you or 100 parks, but if none of them have a spot that meet the traveler's requirements, why bother, right? So we serve up those sites that meet the traveler's requirements, and literally in about 8 to 10 clicks, you can book a spot. So it's very intuitive, and I think, I know Kristen's seen it, so she's sold on it, and we hope that other systems join us as well.
I guess, do you guys integrate with anybody outside of a reservation system, like individual parks that maybe, or are you guys just integrating with reservation systems at the moment?
Right. There are other ones that do that. We do not do that. We require on that API integration so that the campground manager doesn't have to respond to a text or an email or run back in the, in the purest sense. I tell the campground managers, if a tree falls on spot 1, 2, and 3 and you take it out in your system, it's taken out in our system. So we're subordinate to their platform, and basically are putting that booking availability in a traveler's hands.
Okay. I mean, I've talked with so I know of a couple other individuals that I'm not going to name that have started projects to do something like this in the outdoor sector. I think yours might be the furthest along, or the best model so far that I've seen, at least on my end. Maybe there's something out there that I don't know of that's focused, specifically on the outdoor hospitality industry. I guess it's surprising that we just don't see more of this, I guess. What's been your interactions with reservation systems as you try to get them to integrate with your system, I guess?
Well, it's been extremely positive. Obviously, we wouldn't have got this far, and we are a very neutral party to the reservation systems. We're very protective of any data that we swap and exchange. So I think that it's a part of building respect with those companies and showing that we are a good partner to partner with. And our team of developers are extremely qualified at what they do and produce very minimal drag on those systems, and we have clean integrations. And so I think that's the key to our successful launch, like I said, nearly 6 weeks ago. I think that they're ready to have a neutral partner help them out along this line. And the fact that we don't charge the parks at all, it's so for those mutual clients, there's no cost at all. And so I think that's, we're all in the same business, right? The reservation industries want to see reservations. The travelers like me want to see easy booking and want to find parks. And if we bring those two customers together in a common app at the click of 10 clicks, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I guess, Kristen, now does NewBook have like its own booking platform, or do you guys just go through other booking sites?
What? Did you not research NewBook, Quiggle, before the show?
Well, I couldn't find any, but I didn't want to assume that there wasn't any, so I'm going to ask Kristen. So
I think the biggest thing from my perspective with OTAs is how the property management systems and reservation systems are structured. Our system has the property management that runs your day-to-day of the campground. On top of that is the online booking engine. So that's what pushes out your availability out to the individual website for your campground. What NewBook has in addition to that is what we call our channel manager. And what that does is kind of like the intermediary area between the property management system and any other OTA. And so by having that channel manager, it helps to be able to connect to multiple different booking platforms. One of them is Spot Tonight, could be Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb, and having that channel manager there is what gives you that ability to push out your rates and availability to multiple different channels at once.
yeah. I just feel like, maybe an OTA offers more exposure for a campground than maybe somebody's own booking platform. I guess, what are your thoughts on that, I guess?
Well, I mean, if you look at the amount of money that's being spent by the OTAs, I mean, if you look at Booking.com and Expedia in 2019, they spent $5 billion each in marketing, right? So individual campgrounds can't come close to that. So the ability for you to be able to put your inventory out online and have Expedia and Booking.com and all the other big players out there do the heavy lifting for you is a great way to get a new customer in the door.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't want to, I know there are reservation systems out there that do have like their own booking platform that they market. I guess, some of them are growing pretty good, and there's definitely some reasons why they don't necessarily want to integrate with an OTA. I think some campground owners don't like the fees for OTAs. I guess, do you guys charge, Terry, do you guys charge any types of fees for any of this stuff?
No fees at all charged to the campgrounds or parks. We do all of that marketing. We have an extensive digital media group that works with us to target that. There's no fee charge. We do charge the travelers a small convenience fee right now. It averages about $3 to $5 for that booking. We cap that at $20 right now, so that if they're going to an expensive resort park where it might exceed that, it's capped at $20. And we actually are on a glide slope path with advertising, vending, as that gets up, to really do away with all of that, so that we will truly be just a neutral, agnostic, no additional fee type booking.
But like Booking.com, like what you mentioned, Kristen, they do charge fees. Don't they get pretty expensive sometimes?
The commission fees can range from 3% up to about 18%, depending on the OTAs that you're going through. And that's really what I tend to tell my customers is think about that as a way of doing marketing, right? Because again, if you're having somebody else be able to do that marketing for you and you're taking off a slight fee off of your booking, it's a way to get a new customer in the door. And your job then is to be able to convert them into lifetime customers with you directly. And so, especially in the hotel industry, which is my background, that's how most people look at that. And then once they come in and they're raving fans of your property, then you convert them to come back, book through your website, book through all of your other channels that are direct.
I guess from that perspective, though, I guess from the consumer's perspective, don't they feel like maybe they get better deals at like a Booking.com versus booking directly? Like maybe there's like some sort of deal they get. I don't know.
Yeah,
well,
I don't know if it's really that. It's the ability to be able to look at a lot of inventory in an area at once.
That's, yeah.
And I would just chime in my experience in dealing with, when we were at the Florida RV Super Show and we had hundreds of travelers come to the booth, it's the ability to look across all of those different reservation systems that, really is appealing, I think, to the traveler, and again to myself, that because let's face it, I don't know that many RV campers know the background business that we all know as the reservation industry. They may not know that Kristen has some fabulous resorts in her system, and they would have to go to a new book system. But in a totally agnostic world like an OTA, all of those resorts appear, and the travelers can set their preferences and see all of the great resorts that, and like Kristen said, then they become a traveler for life. They may get one exposure through Spot Tonight, and then suddenly they're all going to one of her resorts.
Well, and I think we've transitioned to a time from the consumer perspective where they're willing to pay those fees specifically because or for the convenience of being able to see all of this inventory in one place, because it's such a monumental task to seek out campsites any other way. So they're willing to pay those fees. And I do think there's a barrier there. And maybe this is Canada specific more so, but I think Canadian campground owners do that's this number one response I get from them typically is, I don't want, my customers to be charged more fees to be able to book online and whatever else. We can take their bookings by phone and blah, blah, blah. But there is an appetite on the consumer side and a willingness to pay those fees. And we need to kind of break down the communication barrier there, I think, a little bit, specifically in Canada.
I think I would just add that in my research for the Outdoor Hospitality Conference and Expo, there was a great reference article, and Kristen probably has heard it being in the hospitality industry and as well as the other panelists, that it was about 65% of travelers, I think it was, preferred online booking for their hotels, which then we can also generate contactless check-in because we do have proximity based. So when the traveler approaches a campground, the campground has that ability to have a standard code sent to them, their spot number. They don't have to go to the store and stand behind the gentleman that wants marshmallows and Hershey bars for the s'mores tonight. After driving all day, they can just go right to their spot. And that's the beauty, I think, of OTA integration with like all of the companies here on the panel, certainly with those that have that ability to send info.
Absolutely.
All right. It's been far too long since I played devil's advocate on this show. So since all you guys are all fluffy, happy, go-getter OTA people, I'm just going to jump in here and play the opposite end of the spectrum. Not because I necessarily believe it, but because it needs to be said, right? Because there's opposing viewpoints on both sides of everything. So my first thing is, like you guys are talking about, cool, it's awesome for the consumer to see all of these RV sites in one place and be able to book. And I agree with that. But it's not great from a campground owner standpoint. Why do I want them to see all 7 resorts that are right down the street from me? Why wouldn't I just run Google ads and let them see only my site?
You want me to take that, or you want? I'll be glad to jump in, because I tell you, Ben, I talk to campground owners all day. I burn my phone up, and I have so much feedback. Well, first off, because it gives you a competitive edge with a $0 cost investment, right? Their marketing, I think, as Cara said, market charge, figured out as marketing. I know they don't have the big bucks to spend on all of the marketing, and it really is about marrying a traveler who may have not known about, in our case, perhaps up here in North Louisiana, Grand Acor, because it's maybe 8 miles off the interstate, and so when they're driving down the road, they see that proximity. So those are some of the pitches that I give them. And I also tell them, what do you have to lose? I do all the work. My OTAs integrate and provide clean. If they don't have a spot, they don't have to save spots for us, because that's the beauty of that. And really, in the essence of it, that time that person's taking a reservation on the call, there's studies that show how many people fall off. I don't have that number right at me. But, there's people just don't want to listen to it. I think our friends over at RV Miles really gave a great story about wondering if people will ever call them back, or they have to go fill propane and they can't do that. Or I know not to call campground owners in the morning because they're picking up the rounds. They're looking at who's closed.
Yeah.
So I think that if I were talking to Brian as a campground owner, I would say, why not? It's clean integration. It's technology. There are people that are willing to pay for that. And that's what brings the traveler to your campground for free.
Well, and frankly, Brian, as a former campground owner, I would say, like Terry said, there's no cost to me to do it. So there's not a ton of
time.
And I did Google Ads and still did some of that really targeted advertising stuff on top of that within my strategizing to multiply the amount of exposure that my park was getting. That can't hurt me.
No, so that's my point, though, right? So you did the other things too. The problem I have is not, to be clear, before we continue down this path, okay, Terry, I'm very supportive of your app and integrating.
I know that.
I think it's a great way to get other people's exposure, but I also think that there's it needs to be said, like we deal with so many campgrounds. I do marketing for 300 plus campgrounds, and almost every single person who comes to me, whether they're a small park with 18 sites or whether they're a huge company like a hedge fund with 350 sites, they're barely doing any marketing at all. They're not running Google Ads. They're not paying attention to the reviews. They're not posting on social media. They're not doing all these things that should be arguably done first, and then you go to another place because you've already maximized your own place. But there's no point.
Or you can do them all at once.
Yeah,
tonight.
Exactly.
To Expedia when I can get a customer for 10% from Google Ads.
Correct. However,
right.
in a true agnostic OTA environment like Booking.com for the hotels, you may not know that there's a hotel downtown near that conference center you need to be. The same thing with camping. You may not know that there's a new spot right there that you didn't know because they don't do advertising. So that's a reflection on them, not you. Correct. But we're at a generational change. And of course, here's the baby boomer talking to, obviously different generations across the whole spectrum. But, that the tech savvy traveler is out there. And I, for one, never really liked hollering across the cabin of my RV to my wife and tell her, how many times have I said it's 50 amps? Okay, so we save those profiles for you in our device and all of the others and become a frequent traveler. And so it works well for the campgrounds. And, again, it's a free download app. So once again, on the traveler side, what do you have to lose? Download it for free. Take a look at it. Give us a shot, and try it.
100% agree.
We may find Searl's campground.
I don't even have a campground. I'm not brave enough. Yeah, on the consumer side, you have no argument for me. It's fantastic for the consumer, and I feel like if you run a good RV park, you shouldn't be afraid of being listed next to your competition because they'll choose you naturally. So
you would be more afraid that your competition is going to be in the app and you're not. That's what we're finding now as the groups are coming on. Many of our customers are some of these large groups, but yet we do have single individually owned parks that we support. And so we do service that whole spectrum. I call on individual owners, and sometimes I stumble across one that is a whole big group, and we're blessed to join them to the traveling family.
I was just going to say the same thing. In a lot of ways, it really kind of helps to level the playing field where you can be listed and really competitive with a bigger, operator or a corporate, group that, runs 80 parks or whatever. Those guys have it down. So as a single operator, small family run business, I'd love to be able to be listed right next to those guys on a site and have the same kind of exposure that they do.
Yeah. Well, I'd like maybe we get Heath and Eric in here a little bit. They haven't talked at all. Eric, you're pretty quiet.
You're speaking about things that are a little bit outside of where we typically work. So.
Yeah. So just talk a little.
Where do you work? Tell us where you are.
You're not a typical OTA in the sense of like Spot Tonight. I guess just tell us a little bit about CampNab. It's kind of an interesting service that you guys provide, which I kind of wanted to dive into a little bit too. So.
Totally. Yeah. It's I'm pretty lucky. I'm partnered with a good friend who had an idea because of a personal problem he had. He wanted to camp at a provincial park and nothing was available. So his wife hit refresh for hours on end and found a spot. And so he said, we don't need to do this with your finger. We can find a programmatic way to deal with this. So a few years back, we were over for a barbecue, and he said, I've got this idea and I think people would like it. And I said, yeah, it's neat. I don't think anyone's going to care, but yeah, we could try it. And turns out a lot of people really, really want to find a campsite, and it's pretty hard to find them in, especially national and provincial parks. We're typically seeing the busy ones get booked in under a second on opening mornings, so like sold out. So, but over a season, in a single day, you'll see thousands of cancellations come up. So there are certainly spots out there. It's just impractical to hit refresh on a browser window all day long manually.
So your system does it for them, right? Like they pay a fee for you guys have plans, right? And they pay a fee, and then you guys pretty much do that for them, or at least try to.
Yeah. So it's actually funny, just while preparing for this, I was getting alerts for a campsite for this Friday, and I said to my wife, I could book it, but I got to get on this show, so I missed that one. But something else should pop up. But yeah, they can sign up for a single scan if they'd like, or they can scan on a plan. We run them monthly or annually, depending on what folks prefer, and then those vary by tier. So you can run more scans or more frequently or what have you. So
do you only work with public parks then, or do you work with private parks too? Or? Okay.
Right now, it's only the public ones, and it's partially just a matter of how challenging the integrations are. There are so many different systems, and it's kind of a persistent challenge just to keep on top of all of the idiosyncrasies of those systems. And then also during COVID, it becomes even more challenging where parks policies are changing all the time. So booking systems are doing all kinds of funny things. So we'd like to expand. It's just a matter of each one makes the job more challenging. So. Sure.
I mean, I guess that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on, because I knew you mainly focused on public parks. But, what would it take to integrate something like that in the private park sector? And I wonder what private park owners would think about that system, I guess. So
I can't speak to that well, just because there are two Erics and I'm the non-technical Eric, so I don't know what the logistics of that are. I think we've had a few private parks reach out with interest and such, but again, I think it's just I can't answer it properly because I'm not smart in that way. So
I speak to private campground owners every day across Canada. There is definitely an appetite for integrations. We're working hard actually with Heath's group to establish the OTA at GoRV in Canada. And so, there's definitely integration talks and stuff in the works. I think it's vital to make that national reservation system and trip planner tool incredibly kind of dynamic. And, like we said earlier, consumers want to see as much inventory as possible in one place, and that requires those integration partnerships. And there is a barrier to, there's so many kind of gears in the machine to all work together to make that happen. And consumers, I get asked all the time by consumers, like, why is this not easier? Why is there not already a great tool like this here in Canada? Why is this not a thing? The nuanced necessities behind the scenes to build it and make it work and have everybody in the group, have the best case scenario for their individual needs it's a lot to balance, and I have to commend to Heath and the guys at Campground Booking. They do a great job at balancing all of that. I don't know if Heath is still on. Is he?
He's still here, but his video got turned off, so I just flipped him off so we wouldn't have to have the odd 7 people on. So
yeah, I think there's definitely an appetite for it. I know I have campground owners ask me all the time, like, when can the software program that I use integrate with this booking system? Like, I want this yesterday. Right. So it's a big project, but I'm pretty confident and hopeful that we'll get there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess would campground owners, Cara used to be a campground owner. Would you mind a system like CampNAD coming in and like I don't know. Nabbing sites.
Yeah, I would need some clarity on kind of how that works and things. My park was specifically had limitations about, site sizes and what types of RVs could fit where and things like that. We would have to have some pretty strict parameters in place to make that happen. But I do think, those tech guys who know much more than me can set up those scan systems pretty efficiently nowadays, I think, to be able to function within those parameters and feed those sites to folks specifically who fit them. I think for me, I have a lot of personal faith in a system like that, but perhaps other campground owners maybe who don't that would be a barrier for them. I think that's very common and difficult for them to let control of who gets which site when go. There's a lot of things to balance. Sometimes there's events, there's group bookings, there's one time in my park I had an area of my park flood, and I had to scramble to find new spots for everybody who was supposed to come to that spot. Like, things happen, and I mean, it can be a logistical nightmare. Obviously, that's an extreme circumstance, but there's a lot of variables that a campground owner has to consider before they make a choice like that, for sure.
I should note that with a product like ours, it's a little bit different in that we don't do any of the booking whatsoever. All we are is a notification service. So effectively, all we're saying is if someone wants to specify with their filters that I need a space for an RV of this length at this park on this date, we simply tell them when it's available, and then it's up to them to do the booking. So,
How do you make revenue, Eric?
I'm sorry, I missed that, Brian.
How do you make your revenue off of that?
It's a fee that is paid by the user of the system.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I forgot. Yeah, they were paying the membership. Yeah. Okay, so here's another business idea for you, right? So you don't want to do the APIs and stuff, or you can't, or it's not logistically possible, or whatever, for all the reasons you talked about, right? With the private park, for now, anyway. So if they're coming to Camp Nab, as I understand it, basically to get provincial and state park sites and national things and stuff that are in high demand, and they're probably sold out, right? If they get to the point where they're looking for a place and it is totally sold out, why don't you form a partnership with a state national association like Cara and the Canadian Camping and RV Council that lists their members' parks on your site as a backup? Oh, sorry, your search is full. Here's links to the other members in the area of the association. Then you can track those and actually show people that they're generating revenue from you and charge a association and or the parks to be listed there without doing direct booking.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and it's something we've discussed as well. Ultimately, at this point, it's just been a matter of trying to keep our core business functioning as well as possible. But I think it's kind of an obvious next step is to be able to drive some of that traffic and also give campers an option if they can't find what they're looking for through our service.
Brian charges a fee for any ideas that he comes up during the show that people utilize in their own business. So he'll be contacting you afterwards to go through the details.
Yeah.
I make millions off of the bear idea. I just want to let you guys know. So,
hey, I wanted to go back to one of Cara's comments there about being concerned from a park owner perspective about the automation that's kind of coming at those guys. These integrations are extremely clean. With like with New Book and our integration partners, I can put a 55 plus age-based traveler in a 55 plus age-restricted park in a 20-foot trailer with a right side slide out. That we get that specific. Who wants bocce ball? We can literally do that, or one that wants a zip line. So so I would just say to the park owners, again, the automation is it's just bound to happen, and I'm sure the same with Heath at Campground Booking. They get very specific on the filters and the clean exchange of data. It's quite remarkable.
I think that's one of our barriers now is establishing that confidence from the campground owner side, and I think we're working hard to do so, and they are really starting to see that benefit to their business. So we just have to kind of keep talking about it and continue demonstrating success at he has some great numbers from parks that have great booking response through those tools already. And as long as we kind of continue demonstrating that, I think, there's no way to stop it from continuing to grow and get better.
So I do have a question, Terry. How do you actually track and tell the campgrounds that the reservations are coming through you besides the fee? Is there a way that they can see like analytics, Google Analytics, or conversion tracking?
They actually shows up on their booking screen as a Spot Tonight reservation, and we pass a payment token to show it is paid and guaranteed by Spot Tonight, and so it's a clean data exchange. We can't begin to go out to our integration partners and pass a partially complete reservation, or that would be the end of it. I mean, nobody would want to use this because you'd have campers arrive with incomplete data. So as we built this, we have discovered, okay, we really need to know this, that, and the other if we had things that were missing, and our coders were able to address it. And so I think we're really within a couple of weeks of new books completion there of full integration for that system, and then we continue to look to the next system.
And then from the property management system side, once a reservation comes in, because we integrate with hundreds of OTAs globally, all different industries. Once a reservation comes in, it drops in as a reservation, and it just is a field there that tells us where the reservation came from. So Spot Tonight, Airbnb, Expedia, all of those. So it drops in just like it would off of their own booking website into the system.
Because it's an API. That's what I had forgotten about the API. So yeah, I'm thinking about like tracking ads and not having that direct funnel. So yeah. Okay.
Well, I guess Heath, we haven't really spoke with Heath at all. So I guess
he turned off his camera. He was shy.
He's got a different background now too. He went inside. So I think I like the other background better. But this one looks pretty nice too. But yeah, we can hear you. I guess just give us a little bit. So just give us a little bit about what you guys do with Go RV in Canada and how you're trying to help them integrate, I guess.
Sure. So our core focus as a company has been on the reservation system side. So 90+% of our attention is really just on, in a lot of ways similar to, a new book focus, where we're focused on serving campgrounds, helping them run a more efficient park, increase revenue, save time, so they're not doing any phone calls. But part of when we looked at the space a few years ago, it was like, hey, there's a lot of really great camping review sites and other people out there who effectively are driving millions of views and lots of campers to parks like Campground Reviews, sites like Go RV in Canada that are a great resource for people who are planning trips. And there's not really a way to complete the loop. So what we did was we built other products in partnership with Go RV in Canada. So we built a trip planner and a white labeled booking engine product. So effectively, we were able to greatly increase the existing traffic on Go RV in Canada site, as well as the number of trips planned, and ultimately be able to close the loop through our booking engine so that parks are able to actually start seeing those conversion on the back end of reservations that are flowing through that partner site. So that's kind of been our focus in Go RV in Canada. They're a trusted partner in the space. Chris and I have had lots of good conversations around like OTAs and direct DMOs. These are all terms, in the hotel world, direct marketing organizations, and that's kind of what Go RV in Canada is. It's a trusted resource in Canada for specifically, camping and RVing and things like that. So people trust that it's a place that they can, go and know that it's a source of truth from that perspective. So that's kind of how our relationship has been to date with Go RV in Canada.
I guess, Cara, you've been working pretty closely. Do you work closely with them or Go RV in Canada?
Cara fell off. I think her internet went out, so she'll be back, I'm sure, as soon as she can. But
I didn't want to intrude, but I did want to jump in on the conversation earlier and just around like Brian, what you brought up, kind of playing devil's advocate, because I think we toe a line somewhere in the middle. It's like around the OTA conversation, and there's obviously huge value there. But I've been super interested. There's a really good article called The Definitive History of Online Travel Agencies that was written on skiff.com And it's about a 45-minute blog read, so it's a mammoth post, but it's super fascinating to go and read like 20 years ago what happened to hotels and things like that, because effectively OTAs start out as, you know, your helpful partner, and that's kind of the theme, like very low fees and things like that. And then as more and more traffic is owned and they have more authority in booking.com and things like that, like those fees start going up. So effectively they're at 5%, 10%. Now they're 25% and they're buying the rooms because they have that kind of leverage. And so now there's kind of this movement on the back end of that, which is a lot of hoteliers coming together and say, hey, it's all about book direct. Like if you look at a lot of campaigns that many hotels are doing now, you go to their website, it's like book direct here for the best rate, and effectively trying to, and hotels can do that in a lot of ways because they have their brands and they're not mom and pop for the most part. But I think that that's an interesting kind of conversation to figure out like what's going to happen in the campground space. Is it going to be marketplace driven, where you have somebody that owns the inventory on both the consumer and the inventory side? Is it going to be OTA driven? You know, or is it going to be a smattering of all the above? So, Kristen, I think you probably on this call have the most experience in the OTAs. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I've played in this space for a long time. I was in hotels when OTAs started kind of taking over, and I've seen kind of the all full circle. You know, I guess the question I would have back to everybody is, when you're booking a hotel, where do you go? And I'm curious to hear everybody's response to this. When you decide, like, I'm just north of Fort Lauderdale, we're on spring break with the kids. When you're trying to plan a vacation, let's say you're, you know, a lot of you RV, but everybody stays in a hotel every once in a while when it's not COVID. Where do you go? So Brian, that would be my question to you. When you're going to a hotel, where do you go to?
Because I'm a Marriott.com, because I'm a platinum elite and I get grades and all kinds of stuff.
Same.
Okay, perfect. Where does everybody else go?
I go to Google. I pretty much Google everything. And then I use their Google Maps thing to search out different things. I mean, that's just what I go to.
Gotcha.
So
that makes sense. Heath, sorry.
We do IHG or Marriott because we're reward members. So if there's that hotel in the area, that's where we go as well.
Do you go to those websites, or do you go to Google and see which Marriott is around that area?
We go to that specific Marriott.com and go to that portal and log in, and see how many points we have and how many nights we can get and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do that too. Eric?
You're going to hate me. I go to Expedia and check what's available, and then I go directly to the hotel.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I find if something goes wrong, I figure it's easier to deal directly with the hotel than the OTAs. So.
Gotcha. Terry, I think I left you out.
Yeah, that's okay, because I don't get to travel much, right? No, I do. I start with a lot of Google. I like to look at maybe it's my military background. I like to look at the earth around the place and see what hotels are near there and see what the risks are. And, and then I find that particular park, or I do, an Airbnb or something like that, again, OTA.
Gotcha. So when I go to look for some place to stay, I do go to Google first, and I look to the area and I see the hotels that are around there. I'm a Hilton Rewards member, so I always try and book through Hilton if I can. But I also go in, I'm looking at Kayak, I'm looking at Expedia, I'm looking at all the different channels just to see what the trends are. I know there's rate parity across all of those, so I know that they're always going to have the same rate no matter what channel I'm on. But using those as resources is really key. And I think that there's just so many customers that use them on a regular basis. A lot of them that aren't from the travel industry, that don't know all of the benefits of that. So you're getting a customer base out there that's just, I think, kind of important for you to be able to have some sort of sight lines over to that. But when you actually do your booking, I go direct to the hotel, because now the hotel industry has proven through all these rewards programs that you're going to get the best deal there. You're going to get preferred upgrades. You're going to get a lot of different amenities by doing that. So that's why I still think that having a listing with an OTA is important, because you're getting that sight lines into a customer base that wouldn't normally have found you, especially in this industry. But when you're looking to bring in that booking, you're looking to try and get them direct. Either you get them direct the first time, where they book with you direct, or they come secondarily to do that. What I like about Spot Tonight is it really kind of mimics Hotel Tonight. And so when people are traveling last minute, it takes that last minute inventory and really helps to book that, which is, I think, really important when you're an RVer. You're on the road, you're trying to find something nearby. it's a different way of doing things. I think, both Carrie and Eric have hit kind of a niche in the market that's pretty unique, and the fact that they're attempting to help be able to find accommodations for people that are in a unique circumstance. They want to go to a park that's booked. They want to find something nearby that they can stay from an RV perspective. So I don't know if that answered your question, Heath, but those are just some of my thoughts as we're chatting through about OTAs and how they're utilized in both industries.
Yeah, that makes sense. And sorry, Heath, go ahead, please, for a second, if you want to.
Oh, no, I was just echoing, saying, yeah, no, that totally did answer your question. I did have a follow-up, and then I want to, obviously let you go, Brian, it's your show. But, Kristen.
It's a show. I'm just here to move the cameras.
Like, one of the other things I'm curious about is, like, where do you think that campgrounds will have a comfort level around fee structure? When we first started as a reservation system, it's been like a little bit of a moving target, and we've actually started looking at more flexible models that basically we want to be able to generate and run a good business by providing value to our campground. So our business is not reliant upon, out marketing the campgrounds and out SEOing them. That's Carrie's job at Spot Tonight. And so I'm curious, like, what you think about. By the way, I'm hearing a big echo. I don't know if are you guys hearing that?
A little bit, but we can hear you.
Okay, cool. So Krista, I guess I'm curious, like, when you think of reservation systems and OTAs, there's some people who are kind of towing both the lines here, and they're trying to be both. Like, at what point do you think that you have to pick a side? Because effectively, like, giving someone a free reservation system and then outranking them on their own Google AdWords feels to me a little bit slimy, and a lot of, like, just, I'll say it, like, it just seems like that's where some people are going. And I'm like, really? You're giving me a free reservation system, but you're charging 10% to be listed on your network, so then you can out Google me? It's just like, it's kind of messed up. So I'm just wondering, at one point you think these are in conflict with each other, or that you think campgrounds will actually notice.
This is why this conversation needs to happen, though. Everybody falls on one side or the other, and nobody thinks about the middle.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that we're in the middle, because here's what we do. We give you the tools to run your business. So with our system, we give you a way to run your property. We also give you a way to be able to put your bookings on your website. If you decide to, you can use the channel manager to push your inventory out to all of these OTAs, whatever is important to you at that moment. So in my opinion, and that's how all of the hotel industry has always been, is we always give you the tools to be able to do what you need to do best. You are the campground owner. You know your campground better than anybody else. You know your market better than everybody else. You know what kind of bookings that you want to come in. So in my opinion, I think that's the best model. I think that you should be able to give people the tools to do their job, but not mandate that they have to do anything outside of that.
Oh, I completely agree with that, Kristen. Like, I think that's the best model forward. Like, because I can toggle on and off that channel manager if I want. Like, when I'm saying, like, devil's advocate or not devil's advocate, I think that the more exposure you can have, the more places you can have it, the better. But I don't think people should be relying on, like, I'm just going to turn on Spot Tonight and then I don't have to do anything else and my marketing's done for the year. Just like they did for 40 years with, I'm going to put an ad in Good Sam and I'm going to walk away and my marketing's done for the year.
Right.
Like, we're fighting this battle 10 years later after I started my company. Like, I was looking at a client this morning that spent $1,000 in Google Ads last month, and I can prove through online advertising only, not even phone calls, that they made $18,000 as a result of that. $1 to 18, and they still won't spend more money on Google Ads. Yeah. But they want to do Rover Pass, and they want to do, like, this site and that site and this site and that site and this site. So, and again, I know it's different with Spot Tonight because it's not a percentage to the campground, but you see my point.
And we do the advertising for them. Like, I just got an alert that our carousel ad is running. So all of you, because you've mentioned Spot Tonight, will probably thank me later for something appearing in your Facebook from us. But, you know, it's just the way it goes, right? Can I just go back to a quick note that Heath mentioned, that, you know, and also Eric, and the technology change. And I learned, again, I say this, I learn every day from our park owners. So there are some park owners that don't like same day online booking. For whatever reason, I don't know that, but I'm convinced, again, from my old hospital experience days, that I know there's a bed in the hospital somewhere. I just have to find it. Same thing with a campground. I know there's a spot out there. I just have to find it. So actually, I had a campground owner tell me, why would people do that? She says, I'm actually going to direct them after hours to your camp, to Spot Tonight. So when they drive at the end of the road and they get to my park, I don't have to take them by myself back to the office to do all the booking. I'm just going to tell them to go to Spot Tonight, and I can see immediately that they've paid me, and I can just drive them right to their spot once I let them in the gate. And so there's some neat technology like that, again, like with Eric and the integrations with our, the partners, about how we can leverage that to help people get that spot. And that's really what it's all about. It's about bringing all these customers together, like I said.
Right, which is fantastic. I just don't want people to get complacent. It's like Facebook, right? Like Facebook controls all the likes on your page. You don't. Do what you control first, do it well, and then expand to everywhere else that you can expand to. And you can do that really quickly. You don't have to wait years.
I guess social media should be called social mediators, right, instead of media, because really it's powerful, as we all learned.
Well, but we made it powerful, just like the hotels made Expedia powerful. So.
Right.
Yeah. Wow, that was a good discussion.
It's been fun. I've had a great time and met some new people.
I've learned a lot more about reservation systems and OTAs than I thought I would ever know. So, so that's good. I guess, it's interesting that more campground owners don't want to, sell a site the same day, especially since the dynamic pricing is taking over. And, I think we've heard people talk about, more sites, maybe if you have a gap I can't explain it very well. Maybe,
So
go ahead.
Can I play devil's advocate here for a minute and just on the campground?
Go ahead, Cara, please join the party. Yes.
I just have to say, as a former campground owner, there's lots of factors that go into that choice. A lot of it comes down to things like manpower, and you have 72 site turnovers today. Then you staff for that, and so there's all kinds of variables that impact those kinds of decisions. It's, do I have enough staff? And frankly, with COVID, that was a big issue last year. Do I have enough staff to keep the bathroom clean the way that I'm expected to? Do I have enough staff to service my customers to the level of customer service I want to provide them? And how do I plan in advance well enough for those things? I mean, there's variables here. And so I want it on the table. It's not an arbitrary, I don't think anybody's out here wanting to turn business away, but there are factors that go into those kinds of choices for them.
Right. I think what I was going to say is the change in the trust with everything, right? There's so many different, I can hear it in my head, right? All the forums that we're in on Facebook, people saying that I don't want to accept a guest last minute because, like Cara said, there has to be the staff, but I don't want to sit in my office till 10 o'clock at night. I don't want to have to worry about security or guiding. They don't know that the technology from Terry is available to make that basically autonomous, and they've never experienced it. So even if you tell them that, they haven't seen it work with their own eyes. This is not a campground owner thing. This is a change thing for anybody.
Yeah. Sorry, Heath, what were you going to say? I feel like I cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think maybe my latency back because I can't jump in as quickly as Brian. Sometimes that changes too. So I don't think that a lot of campgrounds is like a hard and fast rule. It's like I know some of the parks will go and toggle that in maybe on peak season or what have you. So I think it's one of those things that's like those are constantly moving targets for campgrounds, and like their processes are going to change, and and they'll reevaluate them. So it's like, hey, how many people did we come in last minute? And also I think if a lot of parks aren't used to online reservations and don't have they don't realize a lot of those processes have been automated for them, then they're thinking last day bookings, oh my gosh, this is going to require so much work, versus, having a tool that, sends out automated emails after the fact so that you don't need to have somebody there. It may take some time for those things to change. That's just my perspective.
Totally. It's so much about establishing that confidence in all of these tools, and the only way we can kind of continue to do that is have these kinds of conversations, and also get more and more campgrounds to jump on board, and that's happening because there's such an appetite from consumers for that automation, for those online bookings. The consumers are going to speak with their dollars. I say this all the time. They're going to go to the parks that give them the services and efficiency and stuff that they want, and so that will motivate more and more operators, I think, to put dip their toes in the water and test things out for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about hard data and the availability that it is for you to show that campground owner that it's working, whether it's in person with a no hassle overnight, or whether it's through a data and Google Analytics that says whatever. And so APIs is the way to go. I mean, it's like there's so many people who manually manage the reservations on Airbnb, right? Well, I don't know what the percentage is on Airbnb, 20, 30, I don't know, whatever the percentage is. Booking.com, whatever example you want, but it's all manual. So what you don't know is whether, Airbnb is bringing me traffic to my cabins, but could I have got that traffic or that reservation for 15% if I had run Google ads? And you just, like, the numbers and the data is there if you integrate it right and use APIs and things like that. But campground owners don't know this. They don't understand it.
And frankly, they don't have time to know it. They work 100 hours a week and they're tired.
And they shouldn't have to. Right. That's also part of the problem, right? Is that they won't spend the money to, like, let's just be selfish, right? They won't spend the money to hire somebody like me because I come across as expensive, even though I can give them these answers. So, and it's not just me, to be clear, right? It's spending money on new book or anything, but.
And I'll also say, I don't think it's about they won't spend the money. Sometimes it's not a choice for them, right? That not everybody has that kind of budget sitting around. And so, learning those things, there's all kinds of resources that, not everybody has access to. And I think it's a big monumental thing to look at this mountain of all these terms that we're throwing around on this call right now. I mean, that stuff alone, to dig into that and learn all about it when you already work 100 hours a week.
Right. This is my point, is why you need people who can help you at the Canadian Camping and RV Council, or Insider Perks, or Woodall's, or Spot Tonight, or whatever. But those very people need to be able to prove to you that what they're charging you, if anything, is actually worth your money. They need to renew their membership in the association or hire me for another. And if you can do that, maybe you don't have the money, but maybe you don't have the money right now because you're not doing your advertising right. And if you did, then you have the money. So
those things build on each other for sure.
Sure. Yeah, it's all that's why I keep talking about the circle of everything, and why I'm willing to help everybody long term, because it'll come back to me. I don't need it to tomorrow. So.
Yeah, definitely. So, Brian, did you have any more questions or anything?
I don't have any questions.
You don't have any questions. Yeah, you never do.
Up and go along, so. You're the leader here. I'm just.
Cara, did you have any more comments or questions or anything?
Not specifically. I apologize for my connection in and out today. I definitely missed, I think, some valuable stuff. So I'm gonna have to rewatch and see what I missed. But anyways, I apologize for that to everybody here today.
That's okay. I mean, you just need to get a backup Wi-Fi system, Cara. That's all.
I know.
That's all we expect from you, is just a backup Wi-Fi system.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to give you this week if you don't let app again.
Yeah. So, I think that's about everything. I think we tackled a lot of stuff. Just thanks everyone, Kristen and Heath and Eric and Terry, for being willing to come on and just talk a little bit about OTAs and your companies. So it's been great touching base with all of you.
Thank you very much.
It's a really good discussion. I appreciate you guys all showing up here. And again, yes, you were missing for a little bit, Cara, but when you were here, it was important to hear that campground owner perspective and things, because that really kind of, so.
Good. Yeah. I'm glad.
Yeah, so I think we covered a lot of good stuff. I think we're taking next week off due to Easter Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you being in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, well, I'll be in the Grand Canyon, and then I think we'll come back in a couple weeks, and we'll be talking about just news from around the industry. So it should be pretty good. So thanks, everyone, for watching, and I hope everyone has a good rest of the week.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very